What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today, I'm returning to one of your favorite subreddits. It's r/IDontWorkHereLady. About a month ago, I posted an extended edition, about 3 hours of r/IDontWorkHereLady stories, which you guys seem to love. It's actually one of my most popular episodes over the last month or so. So today, I'm back with some new stories from the last week or so. This first one is just truly phenomenal and just sums up what this subreddit is all about. Without further ado, drop a like on this one if you are excited, subscribe if you haven't already done so. This is IDontWorkHereLady.
In this corner, weighing 250 pounds, Mega Karen. In that corner, weighing 90 pounds, Abuelita la Chancla.
So, while I was browsing through IDontWorkHereLady stories, I took a trip down memory lane when my brother worked at a southern grocery store chain with green shirts and where shopping is a pleasure. I never ever get those references, by the way, because I'm English. So in the comments down below, what shop is that? My brother was a cashier. One of my brother's regulars was this elderly lady from Puerto Rico. She'd come by every Saturday to get her groceries. She didn't speak a word of English, but she was so endearing that my brother and his co-workers lovingly called her Abuelita. Even the managers called her that. It turns out her grandson was a fellow cashier, and for big holidays like Christmas, she'd send him in with enough homemade goodies like tamales and enchiladas for everyone. Just a real sweet lady. One Saturday evening, I got off work early and decided to get some last minute things for a barbecue my brother and I were hosting. We were living together at the time. It was maybe an hour before closing, so the store is practically dead. I made the critical mistake of changing into a green shirt, but it was a much darker shade of green than the one the employees were. I was getting flour when Abuelita, who I'd met before on previous excursions, rolled up on her electric shopping cart and politely asked me, in Spanish, to reach something from the top shelf. I helped her and she went on her way after thanking me. 5 minutes later, I was in front of the meat counter, debating which brisket to get when I heard the cleared throat. The warning call of the wild Karen. I stepped aside, thinking I was in her way. She cleared her throat again. I turned and looked to see someone who resembled a 250-pound version of Kate Gosselin, complete with the haircut. Now, for those of you who don't know who Kate Gosselin is, I'll put a picture of her on screen now. But she is the original internet Karen. If you think of the internet meme of a Karen, it's this person. This was my fatal mistake. Go to the back and get 5 New York strip steaks, she bellowed. Pardon? I asked, not quite registering what was going on. Are you deaf? She screamed so loud that my ears are ringing. I said, get me 5 New York strip steaks. I'm sorry, but I don't work here, I said. I can get someone to help you, though. Oh, don't be stupid. You helped that dog in the scooter and you're wearing the shirt. You're just being lazy. I was done at this point and said, listen, lady, even if I did work here, what makes you think I would help you? Karen raised her fat fist. Sorry. Fat fist. Don't need to say fat fist, but there we go. Karen raised her fat fist, and then it happened. Something hit the side of her head with a loud smack before landing by my feet. We look down and see a flip-flop. All of a sudden, I hear raised voices in Spanish and turn to look. Abuelita was maybe 10 feet away, missing one flip-flop and holding her other flip-flop in her hand, winding up like she was an MLB pitcher. She was glaring at Mega Karen with black eyes and her mouth set in a firm line. Her grandson was running up to her, yelling at her in Spanish to put down la chancla. It all makes sense now. Cue Abuelita starting to cry and tell her grandson that she was only protecting the nice lady who had helped her and that Mega Karen was going to hit me. Now, by this point, the manager is coming over and Mega Karen must have realized she'd done goofed up. She pulled the quickest disappearing act I've ever seen. I returned Abuelita's flip-flop to her and thanked her. I also made sure the manager knew that Abuelita was trying to defend me. And that is the story of how a Mega Karen learned the terrifying power of Abuelita and La Chancla. Now, for those of you that don't know, La Chancla in Spanish culture, in Latin American countries as well, is the word pretty much used for a flip-flop that is used to beat children. I mean, like, you know, not in a abusive way. I mean, I guess it is abusive to be fair. But, you know, the old trope about Latin American women beating their kids or just being a bit kind of crazy. I think this is fine to say because it is a thing. But yeah, using a flip-flop to beat their kids. And that is called La Chancla. So there we go. I think that's all right, isn't it? Let me know down below. Is that in some way xenophobic? I don't think it is. I think it's just a fact. Or at least that is the name of the term. But nonetheless, back to the story now. Let's get into safer territory. Wonderful stuff. Wonderful woman. She sounds like the sort of neighborhood darling that everyone just loves. But yeah, that little bit of feistiness to get involved and help someone else out when required is phenomenal. There we go. A wonderful story to get us started. Now for our next post. How IDontWorkHereLady almost turned scary for an off-duty police officer. This story came from my friend's husband, Adam. And yes, this is Belle's husband. Belle's my retired army officer friend. Guys, you might know who that is if you've seen my previous IDontWorkHereLady episodes, but if you don't, no worries, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Adam worked as a police officer from the late 90s until the early 2010s, until being injured in the line of duty. One December evening, Adam was finishing up his shift when Belle, who he was dating at the time, called him, asking if he could pick up a couple of last-minute things for a Christmas party. Since Walmart is about a mile away from the station, Adam decides to go there. He's wearing a thick dark blue coat over his uniform, complete with vest, belt and gear, including his sidearm, radio, handcuffs and baton. He's in the dairy section, getting some cream, when he heard a woman say in a low voice, "Excuse me." Adam turns to look. There's a young woman, maybe college age, dressed in jeans, a thick coat and heavily pregnant. Definitely not the Karen type. "Can you please help me get a TV from the back?" Adam is about to use the classic "I don't work here lady" line when he sees the fear in her eyes. Now on high alert, he leans close to her and whispers, "What happened?" "I'm scared of my husband. He just shot the officer who pulled us over." Adam looks up and sees this strung out looking man who looks like he hasn't showered in days and watching them with, as Adam recounted, shark eyes. Thinking fast, Adam says loud enough for the man to hear, "I'm more than happy to help you, Mom. Let me page the back and we'll get it in a minute. Hang tight." Using his cell phone, which wasn't as common as it is now, he texted a fellow officer who was still on duty, asking her if an officer got shot. When she confirmed it and asked what was going on, he told her what was happening, to alert the manager and to send a couple of units to the store. She responded to him that the units were on the way, the manager had been alerted, and to hang tight. Once he received her text, he said, "It's on its way to the front. I will personally escort you there so the manager knows who it belongs to." So, he leads the family to the front and makes eye contact with the manager. The manager, who recognizes Adam from previous excursions, comes over. Adam, keeping up the charade, says to the manager, "Boss, I think it would be good to get the lady off her feet for a little bit while we get the car loaded." He said with a meaningful look, "It's going to take several minutes anyway." The manager nods and says, "Of course, come with me, Mom. My office is just this way." Once the lady and the manager were safely away, Adam and the man head out to the parking lot. Just then, Adam spots the officers getting out of their cars and nods at them. The takedown wasn't as dramatic as you'd expect it to be. They recognized him and arrested him as soon as several outstanding warrants for his arrest were revealed. The officer the man had attacked survived his injuries, and the man got a nice long prison sentence for several charges, including attempted murder. The lady filed for divorce and, with Adam and Belle's help, was able to get home to her family. Last Adam heard, she was doing well. When she heard the story, Belle, as she put it to me, knew I met the man I was going to marry someday. And there we go. A lovely ending to this one, but I've got to say, this is probably the most serious IDontWorkHereLady story that I've ever read. And that's going back now over 4 years. Nearly 5 years, actually. Goodness me. That was serious. I mean, that involves attempted murder. That is, yeah, next level. I'm very glad that everyone was okay here. It must have been very scary as well. Adam, knowing that this person, I mean, who knows? Probably you have to think, you have to presume that they have a gun on them. Maybe he left it in the car. Maybe, you know, it was in the waistband, whatever, but has just shot a police officer. You don't know what he's capable of doing next. Terrifying situation, but handled expertly well. I mean, to think that quickly, in that moment, I guess that is what you're trained for, and that is what makes a good officer, but still, wow. Terrifying moment, expertly dealt with, Adam. Good stuff. Entitled Karen versus ex-Navy aviation pilot. Mum and I were sharing IDontWorkHereLady stories, and she shared how she met my stepdad. I knew they met at an airport, but I didn't get the full details until now. Several years ago, Mum was a brand new flight attendant, her dream job. She was heading to her gate, excited for her first ever flight as an attendant, when she gets stopped by our villain, Karen. The conversation went roughly as follows. "Excuse me? How may I help you?" replied my mum. "I need you to upgrade us to first class." "Oh, I'm sorry, but you'll need to talk to the gate agent. I'm a flight attendant." Mum could understand Karen's confusion because gate agents and flight attendants wear the same uniform. However, they're completely different departments. A gate agent can't do what a flight attendant can do, and vice versa. "I don't care! You're going to upgrade me to first class." At this point, she pokes Mum in the chest. "Right frickin' now." Enter our hero. My stepdad, who just so happened to be the captain of Mum's flight, was getting some coffee at a nearby shop, and he overhears Karen's entitled rant. He comes up. "What seems to be the problem, Mum?" "Finally! Well, I'm Karen, and I need to be put on first class on flight 123. "Well, that's my flight. I'll speak to the gate agent after you apologize to my flight attendant for your entitled behavior, or I'll have you kicked off." Now, most people would of course agree to this, but as you can probably guess, Karen isn't one of them. Instead, Karen then does the stupidest thing you can imagine. She tries to punch my stepdad in the face. What Karen and Mum didn't know is that my stepdad is a Navy veteran who used to train fighter pilots and is in good shape. The next thing Mum knows, my stepdad has twisted Karen around, got her arms pinned behind her back, and is calling for security. The flight ends up being late because Mum and stepdad were giving statements and agreeing to press charges. Karen ended up getting pressed with assault charges and getting banned from the airline. That evening, once everything finishes up, my stepdad comes up to Mum. Again, the conversation went like this. "Hey, I wanted to apologize for that. I heard you're brand new and I hope that hasn't scared you off from your job." "Nah, I've got 2 kids. It takes more than that to scare me," my mum replied. "Well, still, I want to make it up to you. Are you free this evening? I know a really great restaurant in town." "I'd love to." A few years later, they got married. Wow, there we go. I mean, I wasn't expecting a wholesome story to that extent today, but that was truly sensational. A real feel-good one. And yeah, the only thing I can think is that this Karen must have just been battered. Like, there's no way that anyone, even if you're just completely deluded and entitled, would go screaming up to someone saying, "Give me a first-class ticket," and then try and punch the pilot. Goodness me. I mean, maybe people out there do exist without being inhibited by some form of alcohol or drug or something. But yeah, I am pretty confident she had been to the local Wetherspoons before the flight. I don't know what the American equivalent of that is, but it's a pub, and got on the beers. Now, power to her, but don't go punching the pilot. Now, moving on to our final I Don't Work Here Lady post of this episode. Karen demanded I clean spilled ice cream. I'm an electrician. I was working in a grocery store replacing all 1956 fluorescent light bulbs with LED bulbs. I was packing a cart of old bulbs to the back to dispose of them, and as I walked, I heard, "Hey, you!" I ignored it until I heard it again. I turned to look around and heard her say, "Yeah, you." And the Karen of this story stormed up to me. "Pick that up," she demanded, while pointing at an ice cream container broken on the ground. Her voice, of course, full of entitlement. "I don't work here," I said, thinking that would explain everything. "Well, then what are you doing here?" she demanded, irritated that I dared to contradict her. "I'm changing light bulbs," I said, wondering what her problem was. She grabbed my shoulder and brought her face an inch from mine and growled, "That means you work here, so clean it up." I then realized that I was dealing with a crazy person, so I just said okay to make her leave me alone. An actual worker at the store saw the whole thing and waved me off and cleaned it while I went on with my day. The whole experience was weird. Yeah, very weird. Just because you're doing one bit of work in an establishment doesn't mean you do every single bit of work in there. I mean, also, you've been contracted, I assume, as an electrician to do this. You don't permanently work as the electrician for this store. Odd. It's just really weird. Like, imagine that. You picture someone changing a light bulb and then say, "Oh yeah, clean up the mess on the aisle." It's really, really weird. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of I Don't Work Here Lady. It's been a while. Let me know. Did you enjoy it? Do you want more from me? We can cover this subreddit much more regularly if you guys like. It's totally up to you. Let me know down below. Drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe and follow if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you all tomorrow for some more Reddit stories.